All right, YouTube, this Detroit's HPTV coming at you with another video on this Tuesday morning. And we got to talk about this fire in California because it's bringing out all the usual suspects. Now, how do you people actually feel in the public about being lied to? Someone manipulating your emotions, playing head games with you, always twisting the facts to shape a narrative that doesn't benefit the people at all. It's time out. This is why what they call legacy media and mainstream media is dying, and people are actually turning to the bloggers and vloggers and podcasters for their information because we don't have a vested interest in lying for the powers that be. See, the powers that be, they censor us. They're the opposition. They are ops because they always are trying to control the narrative. No matter who it hurts, no matter who suffers, they want to push the same narrative. And it's the usual suspects. I showed you Roland Martin lying about the fires, exactly coming out playing the race card, confusing the people about what's really going on with Gavin Newsom, the DEI hires in California, the liberalism that has come out of Hollywood and really misrepresented our communities with their movies and with their policy of liberalism that undermines nuclear families, undermines God and country, but they still do it. And then you have these so-called black leaders like Al Sharpton. He's been he's been grifting, playing the race card for decades at the detriment of black people. You know, you have these people, they want to get up in arms about racism and bias, but they come out working for the Dixiecrats, for the Democrats, for the party of Jim Crow, the party of redlining, the party that actually fought to uphold slavery. Jim Crow Joe, that called you super predators, say you would turn schools into racial jungles, said if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. And he could still find these Negroes who will come out and lie to us in his defense. And you could say lie, or you could say allegedly lie. Okay, allegedly lie. But they're going to tell you that people are criticizing Karen Bass because she's a black woman. They're not going to say that they're criticizing her because fire hydrants was empty, reservoirs of water was empty, that her fire department in the city was understaffed and undermanned. They had broken fire trucks. They had cut the bill by 17 million, and Newsom had cut the overall bill by 100 million. But yet she has people on her staff making $400,000 a year just for hiring DEIs. They have the residents out there that own 60% of the water, producing pistachios like Wonder Nuts and pomegranate and Fiji water. See, they want you to keep focusing on racism because then you take your eyes off the capitalism that's going on, the socialism that's going on, the communism that they're trying to push at you because they keep saying racism. But this is about money. This is about mismanagement of money. You've seen Maxine Waters come out and in defense of these bad policies that cost these people their homes. But yet they still come and they get in front of you and lie. And it's going on all around the country where you have these so-called leaders. Who do they lead? These people are tools of the Democratic Party. They are Democratic plantation workers. And I'm going to show you this clip of Al Sharpton and Jemele Hill. And then I'm going to show you another clip that debunks everything they say. What do you do when you find out that mainstream media and legacy media is lying to you in your face, misrepresenting all the facts. Do you think it's time for them to be counseled since they created counsel culture? You tell me what you think. I want you to watch this clip. This for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary. Check out Al Sharpton.
Politics Nation, it has been a history-making year for black football coaches. Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman has a chance to become the first African-American coach to win an NCAA football championship. More than 40 years after that milestone was achieved in.
Now, I want you to pay close attention. He's supposed to be talking about football. And even with the football, he talks, this first black this, the first African American this. They enjoy being the first in something that's an American pastime, but they always seem to act like they hate America. See, I like football, of course. You know what I mean? I like the Detroit Lions or whatever. But I know that the black community didn't create the National Football League. Although we predominantly play in the league, we weren't the owners. So it's like if someone owns something and you go work for them and you sign contracts to work for them, what makes you want to take it over? What makes you want to racialize it? Where's the profit in that? The profit comes from these fake so-called leaders who mix politics in everything that the people do. They want to politicize it because they're paid operatives. They're paid to sway the masses. They're paid to shape these narratives and mislead you. Now watch, he started about football. Watch where this goes.
College hoops. And there were a record 9 coaches of color in the NFL this year, although that number is already dwindling after a few were fired this past week. It's America's favorite pastime, and the players are over 50% black. Joining me now to talk about that and other topics is Jemele Hill, a contributing writer for the Atlantic.
Now, he brought on Jemele Hill to talk about football. Jemele Hill's never played football. See, they having a problem in other media venues because of Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless and these commentaries on football and basketball and sports. But it's intertwined with sexism, misogynism, and other things that don't have anything to do with the sport. But it helps create this narrative. They have a whole Me Too movement going on with Skip Bayless and these women who are talking about football and basketball, and they've never even played a sport, but all of a sudden they become experts on it. So did he really call Jemele Hill there today to talk about football? Because let's see how much they talk about football.
And the host of the iHeart Radio podcast, Splolitics. Am I saying Splolitics right, Jemele? I think I got it right. Jemele. You did. Jemele, before we talk sports, I have to ask you about the wildfires raging near your hometown of Los Angeles. You've been very engaged in social media about this tragedy. One fire broke out less than 5 miles from your house before firefighters contained it. First, how are you doing? I got to ask about your mom. And how is the community holding up?
Well, my mother loves you, Reverend Al, and right now she's actually, I just got word of this, unfortunately, like an hour ago. She's actually in the hospital dealing with a medical issue that we're still waiting to figure out what's going on. And I will very much pass on what I'm sure will be your prayers and warm wishes to her.
Absolutely.
But in terms of like what things have been like here, I mean, the best way to describe it is that everybody has been on edge. I mean, I'm lucky enough to live in a neighborhood That's probably about 35 minutes from the Pacific Palisades in the Malibu area. But the way these fires are moving, they're just very unpredictable. And I live next to a state recreation area that also is surrounded by oil fields. And so when the residents over here heard about that fire, as these other fires were raging, naturally we were all deeply concerned, in addition to receiving these evacuation warnings, both of which that turned out to be false. So it's just a very harrowing time. But I'm encouraged by the fact that the city of Los Angeles has pulled together. And I just want to take this opportunity to remind people, listen, the celebrities that lost their homes in Malibu and also in the Pacific Palisades, those have been the headlines. But I want people to understand that everybody in LA isn't a millionaire. Everybody isn't a celebrity. And there have been some other neighborhoods, other cities, Altadena, Pasadena, especially Altadena, which has one of the historically Black communities, a thriving community where over 1,000 structures have been burned. And what saddens me is that because people have focused so much on the celebrity and their losses, that's allowed a lot of people to not have empathy for what's happening to people here in Los Angeles. But and that's not to say that the celebrities don't deserve empathy. Just because you're rich doesn't mean that that you deserve your home being burned down. And so there's just been this general attitude that, oh, you guys are rich, you can recover. And they couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of very hardworking people have lost their homes, and many of them will not get them back. That's what people have to understand.
And the area, one of the areas you talked about was a historic Black area passed down from generations of families. But while we're talking about wildfires, you came to the defense of LA Mayor Karen Bass in the comments of a blog posted involving Khloe Kardashian on Instagram. Khloe bashed Bass. She blasted Mayor Bass for calling her a, quote, joke over her handling of the infernos. But you say she's, quote, ill-informed. What exactly is she wrong about, Khloe Kardashian? And what do you make of the reaction to the fires online?
Okay, you see, he couldn't even get it out. He couldn't even get out Khloe Kardashian's name. And he's saying that Khloe Kardashian bashed Karen Bass by calling her a joke. See, the whole thing is you finna see him and Jemele Hill try to create a narrative because they're running cover for the Democratic Party. Why does the Democratic Party always hide behind Black people? They put Black people up front to paint a narrative as if they don't realize that they are responsible because they are the elected officials. They are responsible for the water. They are responsible for the fire department. They are responsible for making sure there's water in the reservoirs. They were voted in. And they use their liberal politics out there to even include DEI in their political apparatus. Their political apparatus is biased. It is DEI. They are voting for the most liberal, far leftist people they can, put them in positions, and this is the consequences of that. They voted these people in based on identity politics, not on qualifications. This is a fact that they don't want to own up to, and they have all these shields running cover. Look what's going to be said now.
Where the disaster is being blamed on everything from DEI to endangered fish.
And look, I understand part of this is natural human reaction. This is a catastrophe here in Los Angeles like no one has seen before. And automatically people want to find somebody to blame. It is what it is. But what I would encourage everybody who's watching this program right now to do, Google Khloe Kardashian and the Kardashians and water usage. You'll find some very interesting information because their family alone, the amount of water they use is so excessive that it was a news story, a big news story here in Los Angeles. So
now think about this. She's running cover for the mayor and the Democrats by saying how much water private citizens use at their home. Is that why the fire hydrants didn't have any water? Is that why the reservoir was drained? Is that why the Resnicks own 60% of the water in California? Is that why the fire trucks are broken? Is that why the fire department was grossly undermanned? Is that why they cut $17 million from the fire department? Because of the Kardashians? Really?
I find that her comments to call out Mayor Bass, and especially in a moment where people are just trying to survive, you know, and you are one of the most glamorous, privileged families in this city. And so for her to call Mayor Bass a joke, it's just not the time for that. You know, listen, we don't know the source of these fires. There's so much information that we don't have, so much misinformation that has been allowed to really pollute this issue online. You know, between the back and forth between the fire department. Look, the fire chief herself said that even with however you want to frame these cuts, because the fire department did receive a raise, all right, I want everybody to understand that there was 17 million cut from the budget. Then there was another 50 million that they received in raises and salary because they were in the process of negotiation when this city budget happened. Right. The police or the fire chief herself said, okay, on television that 17 million had nothing to do with why they were unable to fight these fires. The truth is sometimes very unsexy, right, and that's what people don't like. The truth is we have a...
I'm going to prove to you what she just said is a lie. I'm going to show you exactly what the fire chief said. She said the fire chief said the cuts had nothing to do with their ability to respond to the fire. Her and Al Sharpton are saying this to you. Roland Martin even came out and said this to you. The shields on the left are all saying this to you, putting words in the fire chief's mouth, knowing the fire chief said no such thing. In fact, the fire chief said the total opposite. Watch.
They had winds that were 100 miles an hour. A municipal water system that is not equipped to fight four to six major fires at one time, because people have to understand the same water the fire department gets is the same one the residents use. All right, so they are not. There's no water system in the country that is equipped to handle a fire of this magnitude. And that is the facts, right? Yeah. And so there will be time to assess Mayor Karen Bass's performance. I don't know if now in real time as information is coming in and as we're trying to understand that information, and now is the time. And I don't judge Karen Bass.
Certainly we need to have people that's concerned, but let's have our priorities right, and let's also not come from a privileged perch and not deal with what is happening on the ground for everybody, as you said. But let's turn back to the NFL and its black coaches. I've been vocal in calling for the league to diversify in coaching ranks, and we've interviewed Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores right after he was fired a few years back. This year, after the league set a record of coaches of color at the beginning of the season, 3 have already been fired by the end of the season, at the end of the season. Some have argued they're being held to a higher standard than their counterparts. The Rooney Rule was put in place to diversify head coach hires. Is it working as intended, Jemele?
And listen, there's mixed success, and there's a lot of people who feel uncomfortable with the Rooney Rule, and I get it because, you know, forcing these owners to have to interview a minority candidate, a lot of people feel like many of the interviews that happen are sham interviews. On the other hand, you have those that argue that just being in front of an NFL owner, being in front of an NFL team allows a lot of Black coaches the experience of going through the process and understanding what that process looks like. But being Black in America means constantly being in situations where the goalposts move. And when you look at the situations this year where you had Black coaches hired after very little time to actually leave an imprint on the organization, it definitely feels like Black coaches have a quicker hook than everybody else. And my thing is, like, when you look at these situations, what do people expect the measure of success to be? I mean, Antonio Pierce with the Las Vegas, Raiders. You know, look at the situation this franchise is in, and it didn't just start with Antonio Pierce. They don't have a quarterback. When you don't have a quarterback, you're probably not going to win a whole lot of games. Yeah. And so I just think that they're just being put in a lot of unfair situations.
This is a problem. I'm glad you've been raising it. We're out of time, but I really want to keep an eye on this. And you've certainly been the go-to person on this. The one and only Jemele Hill. My prayers for your mom. Let me know how she's doing. And thank you, and you be safe out there.
Of course, they was out of time when it came to talk about football because that's not what he called her there for. That's why he spent so much time talking about the fire and running cover for the Democrats as these people in California are watching their cities burn down. Now, you remember she said that the fire chief said the cuts had nothing to do with her ability to deal with the fires. Her, Roland Martin, and the rest of these shields, they keep coming out lying directly to the people. And it's like I said before, this is why you cannot trust mainstream media. You cannot trust these shields. They are running cover for the Democratic plantation. And I don't know why the Democrats are always hiding behind these type of black people. Now watch what the fire chief actually said.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city? Did the city of
Okay, this is the fire chief's actual statement.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job. And I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
Was your budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 cut?
I can tell you, I'm going to even go back further than that. Again, since day one, we've identified huge gaps in regard to our service delivery and our ability from our firefighters, boots on the ground, to do their jobs. Since day one, this is my third budget as we're going into 25-26. What I can tell you is we are still understaffed, we're still under-resourced, and we're still underfunded. So with that, whether it's 7 million, 10 million.
But was the budget cut?
Yes, it was cut, and it did impact our ability to provide service.
Wow. So you mean to tell me that these race hustlers are blatantly lying about the facts about what's going on? But you can't be surprised. They've been lying about everything all along. But this is so blatant, and how they're doing it to the public now, it's as if they're playing the people like they're stupid. The fire chief told you point blank about all the deficits and what she was lacking, and that they failed her as a fire chief, which means they failed the people. But the race hustlers and the race baiters, they're running cover. Again, don't you all think it's time to cancel them? Well, this is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Support the nonprofit Detroit's Black Thought and Ask Collective. The Cash App is in the channel description. You can't, this is terrible. As always, salute to all patriots and keep your head on swivel. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.